Okay, we're going to do episode 2 here. As you can probably guess, in episode 1, we moved around a lot. Of course, my dad, his college education, he did plant nursery. So he had to go where the jobs were. So he had to do that. So we'd go here for about a year or two, and here for about a year or two, then back over here for about a year or two. So we were always the new kids on the block. Yeah, I know it's a rock band, but we were actually the new kids on the block every school year. So, after Lone Oak, went to Texas, Commerce, and there's not a whole lot going on down there. I don't remember a whole lot. I do remember getting slapped away from the table for not moving fast enough. And I do remember my mom and dad, they began to fuss and argue more so than before. They began to fight a lot. And it was my mom that slapped me away from the table. What happened was she was near the table and I was trying to push the chair back, and the chair's legs got stuck in the carpet and I couldn't push it back. So I kept trying to pick the chair up, push it back, and the chair just kept getting stuck. And I was like, I'm trying to hurry up, that the chair wouldn't move. So I just slapped me away from the table. I guess I moved in.
One way to do it.
I guess I moved in. So that happened. So we went back to Farmington. We moved to Farmington eventually. They got into church there. It was a strict church, a Pentecostal church. This church was, if you've never dealt with old-time Pentecostals, they are probably just about as strict as Islam. Women cannot wear any kind of makeup on their face whatsoever. They couldn't cut their hair. Everybody's hair was long. Matter of fact, it was so long it was down past their butt cheek. That's how long their hair was, because you couldn't cut it. And especially if you spend most of your life in that church, your hair was almost touching the ground. That's what was so long. And they had to wear dresses, you had to swim. If you wanted to swim, you couldn't wear a bathing suit. You had to swim in the dress. That's how you had to swim. So if you wanted to go swimming, you had to swim fully clothed. They came just short of having to cover the head up. You might as well cover the head up. You covered everything else up. So you might as well cover the head up as well. So, and the men were just as bad. They had to be like me, clean cut, clean shaven. Couldn't have no whiskers on your face. Couldn't even have a mustache. Hair had to be cut above the ears. Another hair could be down past the ear. It had to be up here by the ear or up. It had to be clean cut. And they couldn't wear swimming trunks to go swimming. They had to wear pants and a t-shirt. Like I said, just a tad short of Islam, a Muslim religion. Because, the only thing different from Muslim and Pentecostal was the covering of the head, the covering of the face. Because, like I said, everything else was covered. And it's just, old-time Pentecostal, they were strict. And if you were a newcomer in that church and you wore shorts or something, you got jeered at. They looked at you like, what the heck are you doing in my church? You weren't very welcome. You had to come in there dressed appropriately. Because they
weren't nice.
They weren't real nice. Like I said, they had their rules, and you had to abide by their rules. You had to dress according to their dress code. And it sounds like the other religion that everybody's always fussing about. It's just pretty much, like I said, the only thing different was the scarf. That's the only thing different. to tell you the truth. That's about the only thing different. But we got into that, and they met some friends there, and then we went back to Texas to Commerce, and we went back to Commerce. Something happened in Commerce, Texas, that I will cover later, and during a flashback part of it, because I got a poem that I wrote later on down the line called "The Visit," and that covers what happened and explains it more in detail. And I'll explain more in detail then. But just to say, the big guy came in for a visit one day. And if you're a churchgoer, you know what I mean by saying that when I say the big guy, that guy up here in the heavens. He came down to say hello one day. So that's something to look forward to in the future episodes. And when I cover that poem, The Visit, I'll explain it to you, what happened and what inspired it and what led up to it. In the meantime, I'm going to leave it a mystery until we get to that point, which is kind of mean, but it is what it is. But like I said,
it's a teaser.
It's a teaser. It's exactly what it is. But like I said, the fighting was getting more intense, and so too were the punishments. The punishments were getting more intense. One time my dad got so mad at us, he laid us all across the bed and broke several switches. I mean, when I say several, I'm saying 1, 2, or 3. I'm saying 6, 7, or 8, or maybe even 9 or 10. He had a handful of switches, and he used it one at a time until he broke them all across our backside. Okay, and it wasn't just his abuse that I had to deal with, and on occasion the girls. I dealt with most of it because I was the oldest, and I was expected to be more in control and more apt to the situation, and then more mature. I was expected to be a role model. I was expected to be their leader, so to speak, for the girls, for them to look up to. I was expected. There was more expected of me because I was for being the older son. So, and it was just them. Sometimes people outside the family decided they wanted to beat the hell out of me. Came across a babysitter, and we was outside playing, and I was hammering away on a post, a horseshoe post. I was just finding something to do. I didn't know what else to do, so I was just ding, 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 ding. I was just hammering a post. Sherry was from here to the sofa here, which is about roughly 4, 5, 6 feet away from me. No danger of hitting her, no danger of striking her, and that's the reason they decided to beat the shit out of me. Because I was hammering away, and I was afraid I was going to hit my sister. So they took it upon themselves to just lay into me. So one of them grabbed one arm, one of them grabbed the other, and they took turns wearing me out. They got a switch first, and they took this switch and just tore into me. And when one of them's arm tired out, the other one grabbed it until her arm tired out. And when her arm tired out, the other one grabbed it until the switch broke. And then they got a belt. And they didn't use the leather part of the belt, they used the belt buckle. They used the buckle of the belt. And they hit me with that belt to the point that the buckle broke loose from the leather. I mean, it ripped the buckle from the leather. They hit me so hard with it. And I said, well, what else could we use? I mean, seriously, you done broke a switch on me. You done broke a belt with the belt buckle on me. Now you want to find something else until they got a board. They got a board about this thick. It was about that thick at least, a little piece of plywood. And they took turns laying into me with that board.
I'm pretty sure that's child abuse.
Yeah, it is child abuse. And one of them laid into me, and then when she got tired out, she gave the board to the other person, and she wore into me, and they broke the damn board. They splintered the board across my backside. And I endured that for about 10, 15 minutes or more. This day they'd been worn out until they were tired. And then they would sit me in the hot sun. It was the middle of the summer. Arkansas summers are hot and humid. And they set me in the middle of the sun. And I had to eat my lunch in that spot. I couldn't come inside. I sat there all day to think about what I did. And all I did was hammer a post into the ground. That's all I did. That's the brunt of what I did.
Did they get in trouble for it?
Yes, they got in trouble for it. They did get in trouble. Neighbor across the yard, across the road, saw me sitting there, called law enforcement, and the patrol car pulled up, came out there, and because they were inside, they had no idea if the patrol car was there. They had no idea they picked me up. They're too busy watching the girls inside and having a fun time, having a good time inside there. Not even paying attention to me. I was just sitting there sweating. No water. None. They didn't even check on me. They just let me sitting there. So the police officer came over there, asked me what was going on, said I'm being punished. I had to sit here in the yard. I'm sitting here in the sun. And so, well, did something happen to you? Well, I got in trouble earlier. And so they picked me up, or kind of stood me up and kind of lifted up my shirt a little bit and saw some marks and stuff on my back and says, oh. And so they took me down to the police station, and they had a medical staff come in and check to make sure nothing was ruptured on my back, on my legs, on my tail. But they did find welts about this long on my back. They found bruises on my back. They found marks where the belt buckle had penetrated my skin with the little piece of belt buckle that hooks into the leather. Because they used the belt buckle itself to hit me with it. So they found all kinds of marks and all kinds of scratches and bruises and welts and stuff all over my back. Brought them in there, and they tried to talk the way out of it. That what we do? We didn't do it. We just give him a spanking and sit him down. We didn't sit him down in the sun. He wasn't sitting down. No, you set me there. And no, you did tear into me. Well, they ended up.
I have the proof right here.
Yeah, well, they ended up. The medical staff ended up treating my wounds, and the babysitter and her friend actually ended up doing jail time. My mother did press charges against them. And we didn't.
What kind of person would do that?
Somebody without a conscience, thinking they have the right to spank you or whoop you and beat you for nothing. Somebody without a conscience. That's a person that can do something like that. Somebody without a conscience. Well, yeah, that happened. And of course, one time I had when I was about that age, I got the 6th, 7th grade. I had a little dog named Bobo. It was a little dog skin, and my dad had gotten. We was in Farmington. We got these animals. We got Bobo, and then Dad he went and got a black Labrador named Lady.
Bobo's a fun name.
Huh?
Bobo, the fun name to say.
Yeah, he was a good dog. I miss him. He was in Mississippi with us. Lady was in Mississippi with us. Back in Arkansas. When we went to Bryant and Benton, when they met their demise. We had Bobo roughly 4 or 5, I think about 5 years, almost 5 years, maybe 6. And Lady, we had just over a year, maybe 2. Kind of felt bad I kind of got on to Bobo once when I shouldn't have. It was late night. It was raining, and I was trying to get him to come inside, and he just kind of sat there and looked at me. And so I went out there and grabbed him up, and put him inside, kind of spat him on the butt and said, "You need to listen to me. You need to get your butt inside out of the rain so they're getting wet for nothing." Well, little did I know, with Lady being black, that she blended in with the darkness of the sky. And I didn't notice her laying there until that morning when the sun came up. And then that's when I went out there and we found Lady. She had been hit by a car and she had stumbled back into the yard where she lay down and died. And I felt bad because I got on the boat. We kind of hid up under the porch for a couple of days so I can coax him back out and tell him I'm sorry. Made up with him. He was my buddy. He was my little buddy. And I hated that I got on to him for that because he was sad about Lady dying. He was upset.
He
He was
didn't
sad.
leave her alone.
And he wouldn't. He didn't want to leave her side because I didn't see her. Like I said, it was dark. And then, of course, Bobo will meet his demise soon after. Not immediately. Probably a few months, maybe a year later. We went to Grandma's. Grandma had a grandma. My mom's mom had a garden about the size of a football field, and her and Grandpa Charlie would have us come out there, and then we'd go out there and work in the garden all day, and then come in and watch Grandma can stuff. By trying to find stuff on TV to watch. She didn't a whole lot. There's not a whole lot to watch TV like there is today. You barely had anything on TV to watch. But found something. I had to search for it, but it may have been boring, but there was something to watch. I had to find something to watch. I couldn't just sit there and watch them can all day. Working in the garden. But on one of our trips down there to Grandpa and Grandma Charlie's, we was working in the garden. We had Bobo with us, and they had a little patio, a fenced-in patio, a screened-in patio, and Mama forgot to bring him inside one night. Left his food and water because usually at night we brought Bobo inside because there was wild animals out there. And on this night and occasion, she forgot to bring him inside, and everybody was asleep. Nobody heard him, heard his cries. Probably because he couldn't cry, because one of the feral dogs came up. And like I said, Bobo was small. Feral dog was pretty good sizable dog. And grabbed him around the waist. Probably couldn't scream out, and just ruptured his insides, and then just shook him repeatedly until he just shook the life out of him. We got up and found him laying there. Blood from his waist. His blood was red with blood. Took him out to the corner of Grandma and Grandpa Charlie's yard and then buried him out there. And I was trying to work the garden, and I was sad. I couldn't really cry. I couldn't do anything because I had to get the job done. But on the way home, I finally had a chance to break down and cry. And my mom, she kind of felt bad because it was her fault. It was kind of her fault a little bit because she forgot about him. She forgot to bring him inside, and of course she had to deal with that fact. So she had to deal with the fact that she forgot about him. I had to deal with the fact that I lost my little buddy. So it was kind of hard on both of us. And, it is what it is. So, like I said, as we're getting up to 9, 10, I played football. Being the new kid around the block, he's always getting picked on. Of course, these kids are always getting picked on because they want to check and see what you're capable of doing. They want to see what they can. They want to see if you'll fight back or see if you can take it or this or that. And most of them did. Like I said, we're always new ones, always new faces in town. So I got into a lot of fights. It would start off quiet, it start off peaceful, but once you got into one fight with one of them, you had to go fight all of them. Oh, he's a fighter. Boy, he loves to fight. Let's go fight the race. Let's go pick a fight. It's all fighting. It's all fighting. Hey,
I swear you went to like a wrestler school or something.
No, that's why I started playing. That's why I started playing athletics. I tried to get into athletics so I can build myself up. I played little league baseball, middle school, junior high football, high school track, high school basketball. That's what I started, and I get a bit on long bike rides. Also, I'd go on long walks. When we got back to Benton Bryan area, there was some tracks behind the house, and I would go on long walks down the tracks. Go on the tracks, I'd throw rocks in the ponds, throw rocks at the train, which was kind of dumb. But it was fun. Watch the rocks bounce off the top of the train and bounce up in the air, whatever they go. Sometimes the trains had open spaces in the middle of them, and we hear the rocks go down inside the train, and you hear crashing sounds. Found old back roads and stuff. Found an abandoned house once and got some old books and stuff out of it. But yeah, I explored a lot because I didn't like being home. I didn't like being around the family. I went to explore. And when I wasn't exploring, I was inside my bedroom, and I would have my own. I would put models together, and I would have battles, wars. I would build fortresses with blankets and books.
And I remember that one time where you and me and Isaac get some fireworks, hanging went to the sand pit.
Used the fireworks to
blow up the soldiers
and stuff. Used the fireworks to blow up
We've
soldiers.
like played cards, and every one we get to throw a firework at the soldiers.
Yeah, I did that. Well, yeah, and when the battle was over, I cleaned the mess up, rebuilt it. I didn't do it again. Hours of fun. I didn't need Xbox or games or stuff. I had the entire outside to explore, an entire county to ride my bike around in. And I didn't have a whole lot of toys, so I made toys out of cardboard cutouts and aluminum foil. I made troops and soldiers and stuff, and had battles with them. And when I used them up, I throw them in the trash and make some more. Yes, I did. That's exactly what I did. It was fun. But
that's what I used to do when I was a kid. I didn't have all the technology.
As I got into junior high, 11 and 12, I began to, want something else, another outlet, so to speak, because my mind at this moment in time was going crazy with imagination. Of course, I was hitting puberty. I was getting interested in the opposite sex. I actually saw one of my aunts naked once when I walked out the door, and she looked up at me and saw the door and closed the door real quick, and I just kind of turned back and went back inside the room. I was like, okay, I saw that. And so,
that happened.
interest in the opposite sex was starting to grow because I'm reaching puberty, and my imagination was starting to go nuts. And so I'd look for ways to relieve myself as far as the other part goes. And as far as my imagination goes, I would make little worlds, little alternate worlds, worlds where you had this hero fighting the bad guys, and the hero beats the bad guy, and of course, in this particular incident, my first poem came out, Snowman. And of course, the snow creature was portrayed as my father. Because this is what I wanted to do, but I could never do stuff like this because I don't do stuff like this. I'm just what you think. What some people think in their minds, they actually act out. They act out their thoughts. But I knew if I ever did, I would regret something. I'd regret it, and so I never acted out what I thought about doing to the kids that picked on me, to my family mistreating me, to anything else of that nature, because I knew it was wrong, and I was taught it was wrong. And that's the reason I never got into drugs or alcohol, and that's the reason I never smoked. And that's the reason I never went out and acted in a violent nature, because I know it's wrong, and I know you end up paying the price for it if you act out on what you feel. So I was trying to figure out some way to take care of how I felt. Try to find another outlet, because making it a little worse and going exploring and doing my bike rides, that was all one thing. But my imagination, like I said, was going crazy, and I knew there was something I needed to do with it. So we're at the house one day, and I'm kind of by myself at the house. Everybody else is off doing whatever else they're doing, either working or outside playing or in their rooms playing. And I walked into my room, and I picked up a notebook, just like this. It's a little notebook. And I looked around, tried to find something to write with, a pen or a pencil. And I picked up the notebook, picked up the pen and the pencil, and I sat down at my desk and I began to write. I was 12 when I did this, and this became my first poem. I didn't know the snowman was already taken. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't care who else that wrote stories or poems about snowman. This is my version of the snowman, and the snowman was my dad, and I was the person defending himself, because that's how I felt. That's how I felt at the moment in time. So that's how this poem originated. And once I wrote the poem, I realized I had a talent, that I could create an alternate world that takes me away from this world into another, and I could dwell in that world whenever I wanted to. That was my own personal world, my own personal imaginary place to be, to exist, and I could create stories through it, and that's how I dealt with it. And instead of going out and doing violent things, instead of going to drugs, turning to alcohol, turning to illegal actions, I figured writing poems or writing stories. I even wrote some stories, by the way, eventually, because that's what I would do in study. I was write stories. But I figured it was the best way to vent my frustration, vent my angers. If I was happy one day or something inspired, something good had happened, if it's inspirational, I would write a poem about that inspirational enjoyment. If I ran into a romantic relationship or something, and I wanted to write about it, that was an inspiration for it. And my poems cover a wide variety of different aspects of who I am, and that's why I'm doing this, is to kind of give an idea of my life through poetry. And depending on the situation, depending on the emotion that I'm in, the emotional state that I'm in, depending on the circumstances, depends on what kind of poem I wrote. And of course, this one was about me fighting back against abuse, using this as a drop back. So we're up to the first poem, which is the whole concept of this video and the stories, is to tell my life story through poetry. And this is the first one. I'm going to read it to you, and then we're going to put a wrap on things. Like I said, this was written back in 1983. I was 12 years old. This is called The Snowman. Here we go. Down in a cold, lonely ice valley, where it was horribly below zero, I, the hiker, was all alone. There was no one else. There was no other shivering soul out there. I discovered and went inside an old ruined temple. For shelter's sake, I spent a peaceful night there. In the early dew of the morning after, I awoke to an eerie, mysterious sound. It was a scratching sound from behind a still bolted door. As I slowly reached for the rusty latch, a fear I had never felt before rose extremely high. I began sweating profusely and then to tremble. I slowly opened the old rusty steel door. There, before my awe-struck, fear-filled eyes, it stood before me, tall and brave, the snowman. I turned and ran away without saying a word. I had one shot in my rifle and a survival knife on my side. I turned and hastily fired to no avail. Throwing it down, I reached for my long knife. By the time I looked up, it was already upon me. So without any further hesitation, I took a screaming, desperate lunge. I then heard him yell in horrific pain. Then he fell to the ground with a pounding thud. Then everything was quiet and calm again. Blood from my knife dripping on the snow. I stood gazing at the once mighty snowman. The snowman, whom now lay stiff in the freezing snow. And that was my first point.
Not the best, not the worst, but it was beginning.
And that what gets us started on what the story is. It gets us started on what the story is all about. My life through poetry. So I hope you enjoyed episode 2. We'll get episode 3 to you as soon as possible. I hope you enjoy episode 3 as much as you would episode 1s and 2. And have a good day. Have a good week. Take care.